Seb, in this area,
Mm-hmm.
tell me a couple things that you've heard that have been happening. Some kind of experiences, sightings.
Yeah, so basically from Duncan towards Lake Cowichan, there was a famous sighting on Hill 60 that a few people that I know personally as well have seen. They've seen a UFO, basically pretty large craft, probably like 200 meters in diameter, and it was just hovering over that Hill 60 in Lake Cowichan. So they all stopped on the side of the road, and it was close to midnight, and I think it was probably in the 80s, so quite a while back, obviously. But it was kind of a mass sighting that barely made coverage in the news. So the local newspapers in Lake Cowichan at the time closed down. So I guess if you go to the archives in Victoria, you might be able to retrieve something about the story, but online there's nothing. It was not at the time of digitizing all the files and everything else in the newspapers. So it would have to, you'd have to dig that information out. But I've seen a nurse who was driving back from the Cowichan Duncan Hospital. Was driving and stopped on the side of the road and saw that event, and that same person since then had sleep apnea, so she's using this machine and monitor, and every night at the specific time the machine stops working. The nurse every night was sleeping, and then the machine was constantly stopping exactly at the same time. So she even thought that maybe her husband, turned it off or something, but sure enough, he was not waking up, and he was fast asleep. But something was physically switching off the machine and removing the mask off her face. So it's not something that you can easily remove, just while sleeping, but just like pushing it away. But somehow it happened every night. So and it always at the same time. So one night the husband decided to stay awake, for the event, and exactly at that time, nothing happened because he was up.
Of course, he was there watching.
Yeah. So that's basically the story I know of the people living in Lake Cowichan. I mentioned the story of Shannon as well, who lives in right on the lake, and she has seen lights coming from the ridge, and she has seen it twice from a hot tub. And at first she thought, maybe it's just a helicopter or something, but it was making no noise whatsoever, and then the light was coming right towards her, and she really panicked and she went back inside the house.
Seb, so you've brought us somewhere special here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us more about this particular area?
Yes, so this is a place called Scott's Falls. And a friend of mine who is also a contactee mentioned this space because it's removed from Lake Cowichan, so we don't have the ambient lights from the town, and it's quite a nice, good panorama here. So we should be lucky to see some UFOs, potentially lights. But he's been coming over here for the last 25 years, and that's one of his preferred spot to come. It was very inaccessible by car, but they arrived to a point where those two guys showed up out of nowhere, and one of them was a mercenary. He had full weapons on and beefed up guy, and the other guy was in civilian clothes, and he had an iPad, and he said, "Can you please remove your helmets, and we won't take pictures of you because you are trespassing, you are on private property." And those guys says, "Well, there was no sign telling us that we're on private property, but they were able to see two satellite dishes on the top that were not marked by anywhere, is nowhere. No one knows about these satellite dishes. So it's completely off-grid, top secret, and has nothing to do with the Teleglobe site, like I said. Behind the site of Teleglobe, I have spoken to a few witnesses who mentioned have been involved in that underground facility that goes probably 50 kilometers wide, and actually remote view the area. And in fact, I went to one of those facilities and pointed out in the middle of the forest that there was an access to the underground there. So we walked all the way across to go to that area in the forest, and sure enough there was a ladder that was removed and it was completely concreted over. So you could still see the marks where the ladder used to be, and then they completely concreted the area. It was kind of an exit shaft or something way away from the facility. And it looks like everything else, like from the buildings themselves, were completely covered with like expandable concrete too. So, but since then, I think they moved the facility nearby, and I have the feeling, again, from what I've experienced, that it's actually behind that ridge over there that we're going to be seeing lights, which is where most sightings came from recently from the people that I know of. So, coincidence?